Okay, you're back on and we're back in session.
Okay, we'll jump back in with Proposition 2, and I think the one issue Pat had on here was whether or not we want to include the ability to fund private improvements to buildings and facilities with this, and I think a lot of that, typically that's in the form of grants or subsidies to say facade improvements, window treatments, landscaping in downtown areas. That would be the concept there, and I think Pat's question is, do we want to include that in the item or keep it strictly public facilities?
Is there a drawback with having private in there? Does some will make voters vote against it or not like it as much? Again, it's not mandatory, but it's what the monies can be used for. So
It's an option, so
yes,
Pat's got in there as an option for you to think about and say, yeah, we like it, or no, we don't.
I don't think voters will read it that close.
I don't know.
it's not like they wouldn't. I mean, if you guys decided you wanted to do something with it, I mean, they
Do you?
influence your vote as a
What
council.
what I would tell you, if you have the ability to do some private subsidy or grants, you'd have to have a program, you have to have a criteria, you have to have the ability to review how much you set aside. All those things would be part of that program. So that would be something else to think about. How do you evaluate what's eligible, what's not eligible? All those things would factor into that if you did that kind of a program.
Right. So like if, let's say you pick a certain type of brick and you say if you change the facade on the front exterior of your commercial building downtown, we would cover X, like just a flat number of that, or percent, or you can do a percentage. Or
You could. I mean, it will be a policy that council.
What I would suggest that you would do, you get what's called a facade easement. The city would have an easement in the facade of the building,
Okay.
and we would pay so much money for that facade easement, and it would have criteria in there. It's got to be this kind of brick or whatever. I don't know what it'd be, and that's how you control it, and don't lose. You don't give them money, and then next year they change it.
So do you do that? You don't? Would you do that as a percentage of their cost? Would you use a flat grant?
Flat.
It's
Let's get a percentage, and the bill goes up.
But those are details that you have to worry about later.
The council would have that would be a policy decision. The council would set the criteria.
Right.
Is that correct? I mean, it's not part of the ballot, but council would say, here's what you have to do in order to qualify for this money, and set out a certain percentage of the budget. We're going to put aside X many $1,000s a year that goes to this. Here's the criteria. Here's how we select who gets the money.
But we have to be careful too, because if you get some new developer comes in there and builds a real big, nice building somewhere, and then they want to get a credit on the whole. I mean, you'd have to set a maximum on everything. Yeah. X amount.
So that's the question. Is that the kind of things that council wants to tackle, or leave that out altogether and just say we're only going to do public?
Or do we want just the ability to tackle it if we want?
Correct, or the ability, correct.
But at least, like Dennis said, he didn't want anybody to read it that close. It gives us the ability. I don't know. Do we think that someone will pick that word out in public? And
I don't think so, but God.
what do you think, Harold?
I think having the ability is key to
Just have the ability to do it. That's all that gives us.
The flexibility, it gives you the flexibility,
Flexibility.
of being able to help boost. If you had a business that was
Actually,
kind of
that's
sitting on the
right word,
fence.
Flexibility.
Yeah, I like it.
Because I think that's one that you all have to be ready to answer. If someone goes, what are you planning on doing with this? Are you redoing your building and taking advantage of it? Well,
It's all about flexibility.
Flexibility, and it allows us to help, you could get things out a little sooner. A building, they may upgrade knowing, hey, if it was a $10,000 difference, maybe I could upgrade and get caught to everybody sooner.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's,
I don't have a problem with that.
okay.
Okay. Well, since I get it, then I'm going to make that permanent part of it. It's going to say in private in there, lowercase letters. Now the length of the time. This is probably
Okay.
a big one, harder one.
Yeah, let's flip back to the 11x17 spreadsheet in number 3 in tab 3, which tells length of time and dollars out there. And I would just jot down a few quick numbers. Like, let's say we did the River Vision extension for 15 years. Okay, so on our chart, at 15 years, if we continue the same sales tax growth that we've had for the last 10, 5.8, in 15 years, we would generate $20.8 million. Would be generated by that 0.3. If we grew at 4%, we'd be 18.8. If we only grew by 1.5%, we'd be at 14.5 in 15 years. So one of the things that we could do is we could say $15 million or 15 years, whichever comes first. Okay? We could do $15 million or, I'm just throwing this out as an example as a place to start.
No,
Okay.
I don't like caps on like that. It's like, hey, why do you want cap it for? You know?
Well, and it's come up in some of the vision discussions was people said, well, what happens if you had a target amount you wanted to collect.
Right.
Once you collect that target amount, then you stop. And what happens if you collected more? What happens if we said, all right, we think we'll get 15 years, we think we'll plan for $15 million and we get 20, then you have the extra 5. Now in vision it was a little different because you had to reallocate it to all the communities. And so philosophically, we don't have to, I'm just throwing that out there.
I would just base it on time.
Okay, so we just say, because
Because there's always going to be something to spend money on the river.
right,
The
Exactly.
amounts I've seen have always been, we've got a specific project, we want to make sure it gets, we get this much money, it's going to cost this. So, but this is more, it's not a specific project.
But
you can
specific
attach a dollar amount.
Yeah.
specific projects can cost more than anticipated as well.
exactly.
Well, and Charlie Young Park's a perfect example. Getting that from excess, you know? I mean, so if there is excess from it, after you get the
This
project
money
done,
could
you
be
can-
used
you
toward
can
the
put
downtown.
it towards- I mean, there's always gonna be projects. that
Bixby
can be
can
done.
always use money for
Well,
parks or
and we're not
downtown.
getting smaller.
Correct.
That's true.
We're not
I would do it
getting
on
smaller, we're
times.
growing it.
Okay.
Strictly time
And that's
now.
where,
How long?
really,
time.
part of our problem that we're having right now is we have so many things that we didn't really plan for that have happened.
Yeah.
And now because we haven't done that. And that's, to me, a lot of the stuff we're trying to get done, a lot of the stuff we're trying to get done are things that people should have been thinking about way before.
Oh,
we are.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So how much money how long do we want to do this for?
Let me just start with an amount.
Okay.
Let's just say 15 million.
What will that pay for? How
Okay.
much will bank stabilization cost for 500 foot on each side? Or
If we
however
let's say we did all the bank stabilization.
far? Okay.
Let's say we did all bank stabilization, the CH2 Hill report, we're looking at $5.5 million.
But
That's
it went,
from where the proposed
Both
dam
sides.
was,
Yes.
all the way back to Frog Creek.
That exhibit that showed the whole dam
yeah.
and how far back that went,
But we don't need to go that far back.
we don't need to.
What is that bank stabilization? Can you define what you mean by bank
A
stabilization?
lot of it's riprap.
Rip wrap and fabric.
And regrading and putting fabric.
And
in the rock.
regrading.
Yeah, regrading that. All they're really doing is going in and say, we've got a vertical bank. We need to
Okay.
put some slope to it and put riprap to hold that toe.
So this is also gonna change the aesthetics of it,
Yes,
because I think that's the major
Right.
thing. So $5.5 million.
would cover both sides of what the low water dam plan called for. That'd be the whole thing.
Okay.
Both sides of that amount. Now we can pull that down. I'm just going to throw these numbers out there. So
Yeah,
let's
okay,
say
okay,
15
okay.
million. We've got 5.5 covers all the bank stabilization.
Jared, can I ask
Sure.
you something about that number?
Yes.
And how comfortable we are with that? And the reason is, recently we had a visit about another stabilization on a stream, and we were talking $1 million at one point to do that stabilization, much smaller,
2 million.
2 million,
2 minutes.
a much smaller area.
Good point.
1 mile,
And-
half a mile.
It seems to me that the 5 million doesn't seem to be enough if you look at it from that point. What is it that's different here than the kind of stabilization we would be doing on that street? Or that would be
It's
done
very
by,
similar.
very
It's a
similar?
good
It's
point.
very
And
similar.
so I'm looking at this number now and I'm thinking, wow, comparing the magnitude of it, it doesn't seem to be, when we were throwing that number out there that we
Okay.
feel comfortable with.
Well, they had a length of bank stabilization.
Half a
And-
mile roughly, right?
Yeah.
On two sides.
On the
You're
other
talking about
yeah.
on the other instance.
Yeah.
In this instance, I need to go back and look and see how long that I did not bring that number. I take that back. I take that back. Okay. 5 million was for all of the bank stabilization. 1.22 million is Bixby.
Well, I don't think that's.
That makes less sense now.
Okay, well, I'm going back to the numbers here.
Yeah.
There is a length, there is a so many linear feet for that 1.22 million. Now, the difference is they weren't looking at in the other instance, the bank stabilization we were looking at was a 10 to 15 foot high embankment. They're not looking at a 10 to 15 foot high embankment. They're looking at 4 or 5 feet of embankment down at the bottom of the slope. So it's not all the way up, here's what we're doing down here next to the river.
But we need to go all the way up, don't we?
In some areas we would, yes. And so,
I think
I stand
that is
corrected.
the most crucial piece to the river development, is the bank stabilization from the proposed dam to the Fry Creek.
okay,
And if we don't do that right, the river,
Well, I agree with that.
okay. So what we've got is I need to go back and look, and I did
Well,
not.
let me ask you this though, if we're dredging this and we're using it, we're doing this and it's partially for public's ability to use it, how are they gonna access it off of river?
Well, you would have to have access.
So are we gonna build?
Yeah, that's-
areas
That
of
would
sand?
be the next, where we talk about next, how much money we wanna spend on parks or
I
public
mean, or
access.
if they're gonna go down and enjoy it, are we gonna give them an
Yeah.
area where they can get down to it?
Yeah.
And how many areas?
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
master plan called for 4. If you look at, we had a north bank public access, a south bank public access, a memorial public access right near the bridge, and then we had going from Memorial, the Washington Irving, that connection. That was the roadway and park. So we had the park on the north with the connection to Washington Irving, and that park was 5.1 million.
That was for one park.
That was for the big park on the north side of the river. So 5.1.
Next to Washington Irving?
No, further east, down where the low. I mean, we could move it closer,
Okay.
but that would include in their
Oh, it was
cost.
further east.
It was further east. It was down near where about where Fry Creek will dump in, where the low water.
It's
at the low water
further west.
due north across from Bentley Park.
Okay.
It was where the low water dam.
I thought Fry dumped in at the west.
It does Hakey. Hakey.
Okay.
Hakey was yes, I misspoke there. Hakey. So the one park was straight across. If you stood at Riverview and looked across the river, there was a park there on the north side.
And that was a $5 million park? God
Yeah.
almighty, what was that?
That was the one that had the pictures where you had the trail and the 2 levels of bank and the overlook, and that had a lot. That
Oh, it
was
won't
the
need the
biggest.
overlook. Yeah.
Right. So that was the biggest. So that was 5.1. Getting over there. Memorial. Okay, they had about 100. They had about $1 million to put roads in from Memorial, the loop roads, and going over to that park, which would have been that north park. So that's in the $6 million range to get that one big park on the north side with the overlook and getting there off Memorial. So that was $6 million. Then they had the park on the south side, which was right next to Don's building on that city-owned land at $3.6 million.
Okay, I think that's one we certainly ought to consider doing.
Okay, so that puts us at $9.5 million.
Because that's coming off of Bentley.
So that's $9.5 million with the parks, and then they had a memorial access off the bridge at $2 million. So I've lost my numbers here. Is that 10? Where am I up to? We add that again.
Right, you were
11.
Yeah, I think it went to.
9. Okay, so that's 11 million would get most all the parks that were shown in the master plan. So 11 million gets those parks. We probably got at least 2 million in bank stabilization. Maybe 3 million.
I think the first park you're talking about, I'm not sure that a $6 million park there would be. I don't know what I.
And that may not be the best location. And again, that's
We
where
could do it over by Washington. Couldn't we just go to Washington Irving and
If we
that
wanna-
would make that a lot. Wouldn't have to build the road. Wouldn't have to do a lot of that.
right. If we want to focus, and where do we want the lake? Do we want the lake adjacent to the bridge,
Where people can see it.
where people can see it? So if we
Yeah.
center the lake on the bridge, we go each side, then then that really, we pull all that park on right there. We have by Bentley Park down on that end, but then we focus the lake right there and.
I think it's where people can see it, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Say,
yeah.
hey, I wanna pull over and go down there.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
'cause we
you-
literally had to eat.
So, okay, so you went, so do you think we could safely go from the 11 million on parks and lake access? Do you think we could trim that to 9 million or something for purposes of estimation? Easy, and make a really nice
Right.
8 to 9 million for that. Bank stabilization would be 2 million minimum. I think you ought to talk about 4 million for bank stabilization, just to
Okay,
make sure.
Well, that's what, we wanna give ourselves plenty of room, we don't want it to.
So that
fall
brings you
short.
to 12.
Yeah,
And then however many cubics that you want to dredge.
okay, and to fill the North Lagoons at $5 a yard, if that's what it costs, would be about 1.25 million, 1.25.
So that brings us to 13 million.
Yep. Now that's, and that would be just to fill the lagoons. And that lake would be, it could be 4 foot deep, 1,000 feet long. It could be 500 feet each side of the bridge.
Okay, how much money did 15 years get us?
And 15 years, depending on, in 15 years, again, it depends on what we want to use as and that's kind of where that is, not knowing what the growth rate is.
I think you use the 1.5.
If we use the 1.5 growth rate, we hit 15 million in 16 years.
Does that include maintenance? Because we are gonna add to the parks and areas.
Now, hold
And
on.
we're gonna-
I wanna, so on the, does that include another park on the north side into the east?
It includes, yes.
No, not to the east, to the west.
I
On the
don't
east
know.
side of the bridge.
I don't
It could be,
I don't think that I would support any more parks at this point at all.
okay,
I would support the river development, and I think that we already have a park at Washington Urban, so maybe we tie that and make that our
And then-
primary lake to begin with.
And then tie into Bentley, and that would be 2 parks. So that could cut the park thing down
Right.
And
to
then make
500,000
Bentley
or 5 million.
access, have Bentley
I
access
agree
to
with
that
that.
side
okay.
over there, and have the Washington Urban access to the other side. That's our parks that are part of the
So
river.
that gives you a south access point, gives you a north access point.
And our
I
south
agree with
access
that.
point will be at the end of Riverview.
Yeah, they're tie into
where we
Bentley.
tie in with-
We
we
want,
have that
definitely
area.
want to tie into
So
Bentley,
so that's a park area.
and then tie into Washington.
And then
Urban.
Well,
Washington
that would help
Urban.
our maintenance too, because we're already
Yes,
working
yes,
on
yes,
those
yes.
parts.
Maybe a
that we
trail
already
on the
have
north side, and that's it.
Right.
Run a trail down it,
I think we do that loop
yeah.
to get around, and we may take, you could take Washington Irving, and if they had, people have talked about parking for festival events, if we had to spill over to the east side a little bit with the park, as long as it was all, I think what you're saying is it's all connected. If everything is contiguous with Washington Irving Park, even if it spills over to the east side a little bit on the other side of the bridge, that could be a park. And then so we focus in 2 park areas. Is that?
What we already have, I just
Yeah.
don't wanna add more parks.
So that drops our park thing down to 4 to 5 million. Good estimate to do those 2? Based
Yeah,
on what
yeah,
you
because
just
what
talked
I read
about.
were numbers, those numbers were off 4, let me go back. Okay, we had the park at, the South Bank was 3.6.
Okay.
So that would be the one by Bentley.
Okay,
And then we've got, that number goes down. Yeah, so 5 million to build a big new park on the north side. So we could pull that number,
to 5 million.
it was at 5 million.
Okay.
We could spend 2 or 3 million. So let's say we said 6 million in park expansion
Okay.
and river access on Bentley.
Okay. And then you've got, what did we say,
4
4 million?
million.
Okay, so that brings us to what, to 8 million? No, you said 6 million, that brings us to 10 million.
Jerry, you're talking about expansion to the river.
To the river, yes.
The current park
Yes.
to the river, but that's it.
Right.
No, nothing new on the north side and east, and nothing new on the south and west.
So
At this point, till,
At this point.
we'll look at it in the future, but
I was talking more maintenance, yes, on whatever parks, which now because we don't have, but mostly on the lake itself. How are we gonna keep that up? Because at some point there is more sand is gonna accumulate. I know it probably won't be as fast, but we're gonna have to go back in there probably and we dredge this. Where are we gonna get that money?
And some part, and that money is, we would need to throw some redredging, not unlike the vision plan had a portion of it to call for redredging.
There's a tornado right there, going across there.
Okay, then you had $1.25 million.
Yeah, so that gets us to 11 or 12. We'll just say 12 for round numbers.
Okay, now, so, that's the essentials of what, that would be the basic essentials. What if we wanted to get really, if we wanted to really go out and be proactive and get more sand and take it to another piece of property that we could turn from floodland to developable land?
Can we sell that?
That would be
Yeah,
another,
that's what I was gonna say.
that could be another 4 million, right?
Yep.
What's that put us up to?
That would get us to 16.
Okay, how many years would we have to go to get to 16?
At the 1.5 growth rate, 17 years.
See, what I'm wondering with the schools growing like they are, what we could maybe sell to the schools for some of the areas that they need to bring up too.
Well, especially the last 4 million that we're gonna spend, that, yeah, we can recoup half of that money anyway. Off of land that we're gonna turn into development.
Yeah, if we could get our money back for what it costs us to move it, it'd be worth it.
Or to development, of course, the key would be to development properties.
Yeah.
You know, somebody wants to develop
That's
it.
right there along the river, if we could bring it up.
Yeah,
But if where they're taking it to is in a floodplain, it's gotta come out of the same floodplain. It can't come out of one floodplain.
Unless we
to
go
another.
straight to FEMA. If we go straight to FEMA, where we do that compensatory storage is if we're not going to FEMA. We just approve it locally.
Okay,
So
so
if
that's
we're-
the difference.
So that's the difference. If we go through a remapping, if you go through FEMA, whatever you can convince them of
Okay.
is what works. If we only can do it locally, because, you know, the FEMA, it'll cost you $20-some thousand just to get them to review, and so it's a very expensive process. So we try to help developers by saying, look, keep it the same floodplain, and we won't worry about, you can get out of the floodplain, you can get an elevation certificate, that's easier. To get the map changed, you have to go through their process.
so would we go then for how many years? 17 gets us to really what we wanna do.
Right.
17 years, how many is 20 years? Is 20 what-
And that's a flat growth.
At 1.5%.
Yeah, it's flat growth, that's true.
Yeah, at 1.5%.
So,
20 years gets us to 20 million. At
so
1.5%.
would you buy it and go 17, or would you go for the 20?
I'd go for 20.
Yeah, I think he's right.
And even
I would
people
go
like
for
that.
the 20.
People go for, let me say, even number.
I'd go for the 20.
One of the things that we can do, let's say we did
Because
that.
that gives us a lot of potential.
Because there really is growth, and if Bixby continues over 20 years, there's a very good chance we'll be at 35,000 people in 20 years.
And what I would suggest that we do on the 20 years is that we do perhaps go borrow the money to do the stuff today. Because that locks us in, you know, we don't have to worry about escalating construction costs.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have financing costs, but we can show more progress today. We know that's a 20-year, if we try to do pay as we go, we'd be generating about $800,000 a year.
We wouldn't get there.
And it'd just take too long to get there for what the public's gonna expect.
So you're talking about a true bond issue.
Well, not a bond issue on,
Revenue bond.
a revenue bond,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
that, once the voters approve that money, then the council can go get proposals for the revenue bonds, and we go borrow the money and do the improvements sooner rather than later.
I'm here 20 years, so that's
That's what I
I'm gonna
was, what I
shoot
heard. What are you thinking, Brian, 20?
Yeah, just as much as we need,
I'm not
without
dead by
a
then, so I don't
shortfall.
think
and-
Well, I think 20, I think it
Well, I think what the 20 would
gets
do,
us our dream river. 20 million gets us our dream river.
So in 20 years, then you gotta go back to the people to get it approved to extend it.
right.
if you're gonna do river development or for some other purpose.
You know, you go back to the parks though, the parks was, it was gonna expire, and now we're going back and saying, if it's not there all the time, then eventually the parks may go away. So, you know, is 20 years enough? Is it?
Well, this
Is there
is
gonna
for
be-
actual capital improvements.
Yeah, this is not for, this is not
This
for
is to
ongoing
build
maintenance, this is
something.
just to build
What
something.
about the maintenance of it then? B brought that up.
You
How are we gonna fund
could
that?
put maintenance in this,
I believe you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would expire in 20 years,
That's where,
that's true.
unless you broke it out as two separate things.
Repairing.
But we don't know what the
operating,
maintenance would be.
Okay,
on
so,
something
so
like this.
Patrick's got it written for maintenance in this item, so you could shave off some of that $800,000 in revenue.
I think every year you gotta put a nest egg of maintenance in there. For, for long-term.
Protected in a
But,
font.
but that would not expire
If you broke it into two.
if you broke it into two.
If you left it at one, in 20 years, the
It
voters have
expires,
to.
and that doesn't really make any sense.
But what you would allow people to do at that point is, do you have a full 3/10 for river development, or is it really maybe a tenth or half a tenth is really what's necessary to maintain? Because if so what you would do in 20 years is go back to voters and go, all right, look, we still need this, not unlike parks, this is what we need to maintain the river, but the rest of that, there may be something we don't know about that needs that capital investment in 20 years. We could take that other 2,500s or whatever it was and go put it somewhere else, but keep that in, we do the same kind of process.
Build our big Indian.
What was the original vision gonna do on maintenance? I know it was incorporated, but was it,
They were gonna
was
take,
it time framed?
yes, and what they were gonna do is take a chunk of it and put it into an endowment that would be run by some other board with the hopes that the earnings you got off of that investment paid, it was an endowment, and it was so that you'd take the earnings off of that nest egg and do the maintenance.
But it was gonna be not funded after so many years.
Correct. I mean, it was
Okay,
just
yeah.
an endowment where you dump the money in and earnings off of that run by
Well, I
another
think
board.
that's a pipe dream then for those guys, probably.
I think that would be hard to predict. I think I would personally say, let's leave this ballot where we've got maintenance in there, and we can figure out what maintenance is over the next 20 years. And 20 years from now, we can say, it's only this much. We know exactly, or maybe it's 0.15, who knows, but we don't want to lock the rest of it up that has to be spent on the river. Because this would have to be spent on the river and on downtown.
Well, if we've got 35, 40,000 people in 20 years, I mean, we may have enough escalation in our sales tax
Yeah,
revenue
retail.
to cover it.
And people may want the money to go somewhere else.
Sure.
Let me let you know that in the ordinance that this ballot title approves, that I asked Jerry, I said, well, I think we need to define what the downtown river corridor is. So we defined it very broadly in the ordinance. I want you to hear this, that it's bound by the area between 131st and 161st, Sheridan and Mingo. That's obviously a big area, but I want you to know it's in there. It gives us some latitude to work in it, but that
It
covers.
doesn't say it's square, it doesn't say it's all that area in there.
Right.
That's right, it's amazing.
131st to 161st, and where?
Sheridan to Mingo.
Mingo.
Sheridan.
That takes you to the end of Bentley and
Yeah,
where
so
the old
that's,
bridge
So
was.
if I own property within that, does that affect me in any way, shape, or
No,
form?
'cause there's a
or
sales
voting?
And the
tax.
people can vote.
Okay.
So,
This
yeah.
is sales
What it
tax
means is
property.
we can use this sales tax to spend money in that area.
so as a property owner, theoretically, are we gonna be limiting to private and public in this as well?
You'll have the latitude for public and private improvements.
So if you're a property owner, theoretically, you probably is to help you with
Yeah,
something.
and you may not be on the council. Who knows?
Maybe not.
Okay, I honestly think that exhausts that
Okay.
one. The next one on the ballot was,
Maybe I'll have any other thoughts there before 20 years.
I'll be dead, I don't care.
We've got maintenance in there, so that we shave off a percentage of that, and we're doing
Live in
maintenance. That's probably what I would direct, is that we do revenue bonds for the rest and keep some back for maintenance.
Yeah, that's the only concern I have is the maintenance.
Okay.
now if I can move on to the public safety proposition, which is labeled 3, but it's going to be 2. I think we kind of discussed this a lot last night about, we discussed it a lot, so I don't know if there's much to say about this one. It's to begin again January 1, 2017, when the 2025 goes out, and it would be permanent, 0.25% for employing, training, and equipping additional City of Bixby Police, Fire, and Street Department personnel. No
We
brainer?
touched on that last night,
Yep.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Then the last one would be Proposition 4, and that's extension of the existing parks so as to make it permanent.
So
Simple
you're gonna
issue.
lump all of those together then, like you're gonna take number 1, make it 3, and then move the other 2 to the top?
Right.
One thing I was
That's
going to
right.
ask on extension of existing parks facilities sales tax, we want to say extension of time rather than just extension
I
of the
agree
tax.
with that, I think so.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
I
somehow we
think
need to
so.
say we're extending the time, we're not changing the tax.
I think so.
We got one capital challenge.
We do.
That means
So-
we-
Some say permanent. extension of time is forever, I guess, but sure. Anything else, you want it on the ballot? Don't want it on the ballot? It certainly coincides with the repurposing.
To the Dennis Laudermill Fund? No?
We need a Cayman Island account.
Cayman Island account.
He's probably got a couple down there already, so.
No, I
You can
don't.
include that in the river.
I was going to, but they
District
said that John
definition.
Easton has them all.
Okay, so again, I think that's all that we're done with this finally from last night's agenda, and it's 11:45, which is when lunch was scheduled. So number one on the ballot will be downtown river corridor. Number 2 would be public safety. Number 3 would be the repurposing, with flipping the percentages that's currently in the ballot type. And number 4 would be making the current park facilities tax permanent effective January 1, 2016.
Everybody okay with that? They ain't gonna pass it, but we're on.
We don't have to vote, but if somebody definitely thinks that something's wrong there, let me know. If we can correct it now, we can.
And I think just to let you all know, to present this, we'll do what B was talking about, put up a slide that shows the 4 on this half of the page, on the right half of the page, give a summary, and we'll talk through, obviously not this whole conversation, but we'll go back through the essence of it. For everybody that's there to say, why are we doing what we're doing, and what does this do? And that will give them the background that you guys have gone through the last.
Well, and it might not be bad to really show what it doesn't do and what it can't do.
Right.
Because that's the next question we always have in all those meetings is, well, can we use it for this, or can we do that with this? No, that's not what it's for.
Okay.
If we keep that up, and actually we figure out a way to keep that up there all through the whole thing, we might stop
Yes.
having questions.
Well, and that's exactly what my thought was. We just put it up there, we talk off of that, and I'm sure people will want to speak to it, but we can always refer back to that, and it'll put the things that you guys have gone through here up there for them, and
If you're for these propositions, it'd be good if you, in your free time, to get talking points. I mean, this is going to be a long meeting on Monday. If you got some comments that you want to make, I think I would at least try and get those fixed in your mind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to rework the ballots, renumber them. I'm going to have to rework the ordinances a little bit, and then have to rearrange the election resolution. So that's my church tomorrow, and I want to let you know that certainly you can change something in the council meeting. Obviously, I will not have drafts. I won't be able to have signatures from the mayor if you all approve them that night. But if you all make amendments to it, I can certainly try and produce those on Tuesday. Get the mayor's signature.
Because we got to get there Wednesday.
Because it has to be served on the election board Wednesday, or we're not going to have it. So, like obviously, the minimal changes would be appreciated, but I understand you do what you have to do, and if anybody reads it, I mean, I'll be reading it several times. I don't want to screw anything up, but it'd be good to read through them once and see if you see something wrong. I think they'll be fairly simple. So the simpler it is, the easier it'll be for me to do it, and less mistakes. So, and with that, I think we finished this topic. Okay.
Yep, we finished the topic. Before we adjourn, I did want to let, if we just want to take a sneak peek at tab 6, I think Chief Wood may have. You want? Okay, you're good. Okay, all right, we'll hang on there.
I get out early afternoon.
Okay, all right, we'll do that.
Well, forget that. You ain't
At
going
this
nowhere.
At this pace, we're not going to get out of here till 6.
Yeah,
Okay, let's
tomorrow.
finish it
Get
up.
out here tomorrow.
No, I'm good for me.
Okay.
Do we want to recess then at 11:47 for
Up there,
lunch and
is
reconvene?
that the goal? Well, you call them up and let them know.
We recessed? Without objection? Here we go. I'm going to turn it off. And we're off. Well, no, we're not. We're still on.